Hello, this is Jefferson Alders from Giving is Good. Today we have a special guest, Miss Bonnie Armstrong from the Shaken Baby Alliance. I had the privilege of going to One Safe Place, which I learned all about, which was phenomenal to me.
It's an amazing place.
It is. And then in One Safe Place, which is one big building with a bunch of nonprofits that really kind of cater to, I would say, domestic abuse.
Yes,
It's kind
family
of a
violence.
family violence. And in One Safe Place, we have Bonnie, and Bonnie has the Shaken Baby Alliance. She founded that 20, how many years
21 years ago.
21 years ago. I learned about something that you hear the term shaken baby syndrome, and it's a term. I don't really know what it means. I'm a father of daughters. I've got kids.
Mm-hmm.
You grow up and you hear things, but it doesn't really mean anything because maybe you've never been exposed to it. So we meet Bonnie, we take this tour, and then she tells us all about Shaken Baby Syndrome and what the Shaken Baby Alliance does. And then you go, wow, that's pretty amazing, pretty interesting. If more people knew,
Right.
it would help a lot because the victim is a baby who is completely helpless. And when I heard and saw this, I was like, please come tell people your story. Let's get your information out there. There are people that will have a heart to help the Shaken Baby Alliance and what you're doing, training. There are people that might want to come and get involved and help with training. There's people that might want to give money because maybe they've experienced this. What do you call it? It's a violent act towards a baby that no one truly kind of understands until it happens, and then a child ends up in a completely changed form, and the world's different.
Very different.
And a lot of the people that do this, I wouldn't necessarily consider them violent humans. They just don't know.
I mean,
To an extent, is that a way
that's
to say
very
it?
true. The number one person who causes this type of injury to a child is the biological father. Dr. Suzanne Starling did some research, and it showed that 37% of the time it is the biological father, 21% of the time it's the mother's boyfriend, and 17% of the time it's the female child care provider. And the numbers drop from there. So it's anyone. And we know that shaken baby syndrome cuts across all socioeconomic, all racial lines. It really can happen in any family.
Is there, when you say cuts across all lines, there are some people, is it a poor thing? Is it a rich thing? Is it just because people don't know that you can't shake your child? And why do they do it? Can you kind of walk people through? That way, if somebody out there is watching this, they see it, they hear it, and they go, you know what? I saw my uncle shaking the baby when the child wouldn't quit crying. Kind of walk everybody through what's the typical experience of where this starts.
Well, typically what we know about shaken baby syndrome is that the child, and it's usually an infant under the age of 6 months, but it can happen with children of any age. But what we know is that the child is usually crying. We believe about 99% of the time the child is crying. The adult caregiver becomes frustrated, and usually they've tried some things. They've tried to console the baby in some ways, and they really just have reached the end of their rope, and they don't know what to do. And then the child is shaken. We know that shaken baby syndrome is caused through violent shaking. So we're not talking about bouncing a baby on the knee or tossing them up in the air and catching them. It's very violent, and typically it is a crime of isolation. So there won't be that many witnessed cases. What we know is that just from the people that have caused the abuse, that have been very open about what they've done, is that they reach that frustration point. They pick the child up, they squeeze them. Typically, we'll see that the child has broken ribs from the squeezing, and then they violently shake the child back and forth. This type of injury creates forces within the brain that cause rotation, and those rotational forces tear brain tissue, tear blood vessels and actually can cause damage to the back of the eyes. So a lot of times what we'll see, the medical findings will be a subdural hematoma, maybe subarachnoid hemorrhaging, brain swelling, and then retinal hemorrhaging in the eyes. And sometimes there's other, findings such as fractures, the rib fractures, leg fractures, or arm fractures. As the arms are slinging back and forth, they'll twist and rotate. And we often see metaphyseal fractures at the ends of the bones. So it's a very quick thing. This does not go on a very long time. We believe it's a few seconds, but those few seconds change lives, and it changes a life. For the baby's life, they can be left with blindness, with cognitive delays. They have a brain injury. So we usually don't know everything that's going to take place and the harm that's caused to that child until they are older. The person who causes the injury, it changes their life, and many times I speak with a lot of, we call them perpetrators, and they'll explain to us or to me that they've just totally lost control. They shook and or slammed their child down, or maybe hit the child in the head
to make them
quit crying. So it's really all about crying.
Yeah.
And we focus our prevention efforts on teaching people and educating people that babies cry. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's really their only way to communicate. And you think of even a child who is verbal, when they become frustrated, when they become upset, they start crying too. And they don't make a lot of sense. They're crying. But babies cry, and sometimes they cry for no reason at all. There's a lot of wonderful research that's out in the public about crying, and babies cry because they're hungry, that they're wet, and sometimes you've taken care of all those needs and they're still crying. And we think maybe there's a physiological need for them to cry. Maybe they need more oxygen to their brain then. So what we want people to know is it's okay to let a baby cry. Put them in a safe place, such as their crib, a swing, someplace where they can't harm themselves, and step away, walk away. So just give yourself that break, give yourself permission to put them in a safe place and walk away. Go outside, go to another room, just do what you need to do to cope with the situation. And actually our prevention program, we have an acronym that we use for COPE, and it's a crying baby, overwhelmed, pause, and exit. Because we want cope. We want people to know it's okay to let a baby cry and walk away.
It's amazing when you think about a father and a mother. This action is caused. I heard you use the term perpetrator, and I'm just kind of backing up through that. The action itself is caused by the love of a father and a mother wanting their baby to stop crying, wanting the baby to be relieved, and then not knowing what to do.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they get so overwhelmed, they get angry, they get nervous, they want the baby to be okay, and then all of a sudden they just kind of flip a switch.
They do. And that's really the story that I hear a lot, that I can't believe I did this. Like I remember being very angry and very frustrated, and then I lost it. And we also, for those who we've given the education to, we get a lot of phone calls and some texts and emails where they'll say, I was really frustrated, but I remembered what you said about coping. And I remembered to stop and put the baby in a safe place and walk away. So we know the education works. Yeah. And our goal is to get education to every single baby that's born in Tarrant County for sure, but we'd like to expand beyond that. We'd also like to be able to get into the high schools, the middle schools, and let children know, young students know that when they're babysitting, when they're taking care of a sibling, that those babies may cry, and it's okay. Once again, put them in a safe place and cope and just walk away.
Yeah. The getting that message out, being a parent, that it's okay for kids to cry. I can remember, our kids would cry. You put them in their crib and they keep crying, and you shut the door, and it's amazing. They fall asleep.
Eventually they do.
Yeah, it's all right. All their needs are met. They're loved, and it's okay for those kids to cry. You wonder how some parents go through. They don't have the education. Maybe they're really young parents. Maybe they don't have a parent helping them through the process. So y'all's training of what y'all go out. You go to high schools.
We go to high
right?
schools.
You go to, I'm assuming people invite you on. You've been all over the country.
We have.
Have you spoken on a bunch of different talk shows and delivered this message?
A few talk shows.
The news.
But we try really hard to get in front of as many audiences as what we possibly can. You know, our goal is to reach as many people on the planet as possible and let them know that babies cry. Our job is to cope. That's really our message that we want to get out.
And when people cope correctly, all right, then babies, they live wonderful lives.
They do.
Versus kind of would you be okay telling us a little bit about your story? You didn't wake up one morning and go, I want to start the Shaken Baby Alliance.
No, I didn't.
What happened in your life?
I'd planned to change the world by teaching kindergarten, and it didn't work out quite that way. I got to teach for 6 years, but my niece, Tiffany, was born to my sister, and my sister had met and married a very violent man. And he had hurt my sister. He had hurt his ex-wife. We knew he was violent. When my sister was only 28 weeks pregnant, he beat my sister and caused the birth of Tiffany. Unfortunately, under our Texas law at the time, Tiffany had no injuries from that. So she was, even though she was born weighing 2 pounds, 6 ounces, she was just a preemie, and she grew. And when she reached 4.5 pounds, she got to go home. Legally, he had every right to take her home with him, and he did. And 20 days later, I was teaching in my kindergarten classroom when I got called to the office, and I received a phone call from my mom telling me that Tiffany was being flown to Cook Children's Medical Center. I arrived there. The doctor sat me down and explained to me that Tiffany had been shaken and beaten with a blunt object. I later learned that was with a baseball bat. And she's just a little 4.5-pound baby. Just tiny. And I remember they gave us almost no hope. I mean, basically no hope. And I just thought, this can't be. I asked them if I could go to her, and they took me to her, and I leaned down and kissed her. And I made a promise to her that if she would fight and she would breathe, I would make something good come from something so very evil. And I didn't really know how I was going to keep that promise, but I knew I would. And Tiffany kept her part of the promise against all odds. She survived the shaking and beating. She learned to talk. She learned to walk. It took her till she was almost 4 to walk, but she did it. And today she is a 26-year-old beautiful woman who contributes so much to our society. She volunteers at an animal shelter. She is a Special Olympic athlete, and she wants everybody to know that she's really good at basketball and track. And she's wonderful with animals.
Like to meet Tiffany.
She's amazing. And so, you know, she's inspired me every step of the way. She's been there and she fights. You know, it's not easy. In the years that she's been, you know, since she's been shaken, she struggles. She has about a third of her brain was destroyed. She has 20 to 30 seizures every minute. This past April, she almost died. She had a 9-minute seizure. We almost lost her that day. Her life is not easy. And none of our babies with abusive head trauma have easy lives. And the families don't either. The families, it's very difficult for the families to deal with this. And you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But she has, you know, she's incredible. From her inspiring me, I was able to find truly the best people in the world who joined with me, and we put together the Shaken Baby Alliance. The Shaken Baby Alliance, our mission is support for families and professionals, prevention of child abuse, and justice for the innocent victims. Within that mission, what we do is we provide support to victim family members in whatever way they need it. If a family's child dies, they need one kind of support. If a family's child survives, they need a different kind of support. Many of our families are with us throughout their child's life. We've been in existence for 21 years, and we have some families that have been with us this whole time. Their needs change as the child grows, as the family grows. And then for the professionals, we really try to focus on 2 different aspects. Training, which is forensic investigative training, teaching law enforcement, child protective services, prosecutors, medical providers, anyone on that multidisciplinary child abuse team, how to do a forensic child abuse investigation. We also offer case consultation, or basically that's just support on a specific case. And each year we do anywhere from 75 to 150 cases that we offer that support on.
When you offer support on cases, is law enforcement bringing specific cases to you? Do you have to go and testify in courts, or are you looking at pictures and walking them through the education of here's what it looks like?
It's all of those things. It sometimes law enforcement. I mean, our number two customers, our two customers that we have, quite frankly, all the time is law enforcement and attorneys. It can be prosecutors, it can be defense attorneys, but law enforcement typically will need help more on the investigation side of the equation, whereas prosecutors will want, or defense attorneys will want more of the trial or the court process. We do help them find medical experts, and we help them find, not just medical experts, but experts of any kind, and we help them to put their cases together, to present them to juries in a way that juries can understand them. So a lot of visuals, a lot of things like that. And, some people sometimes are surprised that we work with defense attorneys, but of course we do. It's justice for the innocent victims, and we think justice is justice. So we work with anyone who calls and asks for assistance. So.
I get that. It's I'm assuming there's not a lot of Bonnie Armstrongs around.
I don't know of any other agency that does what we do exactly. There's some other great nonprofits that their focus is on shaken baby prevention. And they do a very fine job of getting education out, doing conferences and things like that. We really focus on the families and the professionals that are working these cases.
So you're really trying to bring education to the masses at a very rounded type of scope, so that people can truly start to understand, be aware of what's going on, and sounds like how to spot it, how to deal with it, how to make it through if you're a family. I'm assuming you probably have to have a bunch of resources, whether it be money, donations, whether it be other people that want to help you go out and educate. Can you kind of tell everybody what you need as the alliance there to help pushing your message to educate America in this problem, as far as what you need in the future? So, like, how does money help you versus how does people that want to come and help because they're passionate about babies' issues? So you've got people that want to get involved in certain types of causes. They don't necessarily know how or what to do. So kind of fill us in on who can help you.
Well, as far as resources, monetary resources always help us. Our budget is pretty small compared to a lot of nonprofits, but we know how to stretch a dollar really well. Yeah. But we use that money for our programming, and to reach our mission, which is the support for victim families and professionals. So any money that's donated to the Alliance pretty much goes towards the programming areas of it. Obviously we have administrative costs too. As far as human resources, we are always looking for volunteers. We have a group of people who go out into the community and use our prevention program. It's When Babies Cry, We Cope, and they present that to classes, whether it's middle school or high school classes, on a level that they can understand it. And so we have volunteers that do that. We have volunteers that do community presentations for us. We have volunteers that help us put together trainings. Sometimes it's as simple as putting labels on, notebooks that we're doing or things like that. So we have volunteers that help us with our fundraising efforts. Each year we do a clay shoot. And there's a lot of moving parts to putting together a clay shoot as a fundraiser. Sure, and so we love to have people come and volunteer for that. We also are always looking for teams, teams of 4 that go out and shoot the clays and support our organization that way. We also have we have other ways that people can help us. So we have some people that help us strictly just keeping databases for us. So they work from their home, and maybe they enter data for us into a database. Okay. So there, you can work from home.
Stuff.
It's very simple stuff, but it's so important to our organization. And we are, I told you, we know how to stretch the dollar. We are a lean organization, but we do utilize our volunteers. Last year, we used over $180,000 in in-kind donated services. That's a huge amount of donation between time and effort and things that people donated to us. And we couldn't do it without them.
They're bringing their skill set to you and saying, this is what I can do. Mm-hmm. Can you use me?
Yes.
Right? And I can data entry.
Yes.
So if you can data entry, they
Yeah.
can use the help. I mean, think of how simple that is, but nonetheless, they're still, the audience is leaving what they're doing because they want to help, and they can come to you and say, hey, look, give me that database. Let me start working on stuff.
Yeah, just simple things. But honestly, we wouldn't be where we are today, and we couldn't keep going without our volunteers. We do, a lot. Our volunteers do a lot of work for us. So
one of the things that just came to mind is I'm assuming teachers are probably, if you could have a teacher in every school.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, that knew about what y'all do. Just to have an on-staff person in a school know and be aware, and that could also do maybe some workshops, right? Because it sounds like you're training trainers.
We are
training so that other people can teach, right?
Yes, that
so
and
calling all teachers.
Yeah,
That's kind of a
teachers,
cool
educators
thought
of any
process.
kind. I love that. And we have a lot of college students who are looking for volunteer hours that maybe whatever sorority they're in, or high school students too. And we get a lot of those, and we have jobs that they can do. Definitely,
I like that.
we can always keep people busy.
My daughter's a college student, so maybe I'm going to get her some hours.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, I want to. She was telling me about a super cool place she's headed to. I think she's leaving right after this or tomorrow. Tell them where you're going to do a training, because this is super cool.
We were so excited that the Texas Rangers, not the baseball team,
Not
although
the baseball team.
I love them too.
The real
Texas Rangers investigators invited us to come and train their rangers in how to do a forensic child abuse investigation. And so right after we finish this interview, we're leaving to go to Waco. We get to train at Knox Hill, which is right there at the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
First time we've ever been invited to train at the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame. So we're very honored because that is such a great museum anyway. And just to see what the Rangers have done for Texas history all these years is amazing. But we're looking forward to it. We get to consult throughout the years. We've consulted on several cases with the Rangers. We've built a really good relationship with them. I think they have a lot of respect for the work that we're doing. And obviously we have a lot of respect for the work that they're doing. So this is going to be a great training.
To me, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
she's getting to train with the Texas Rangers at the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame. Really cool people at a really cool place that do wonderful things for Texas. I mean, they're another form of protection. I'm big on law enforcement. So they're protecting us, and you're down there training them on shaken baby syndrome and how it happens, and making them more aware so that when they go into those types of, what would you call it? Those environments, cases, and they can start to see what's going on, so those children don't get looked over. They can see what's happening, and then they can also.
Yes, I think the Rangers' mission is to protect others, and I think that the tiniest ones among us need the most protection. So the fact that they're getting this training is really exciting to me. Yeah.
So I'm very blessed. I appreciate you coming and being with us. I know you have lots to do, but getting your message out there, I think it's a worthy cause. It's something people need to know about. I think it's very unique because there are lots of people who have a heart for children and babies, and it's hard to go and find a organization like yours where they can plug into, and maybe they just want to donate money. And there are people that have hearts specifically to give to those types of causes. She's been doing what she's doing for a really long time. I think you should reach out to her, get involved, contact her, find out where they're headed. They do events, they've got raffles, they have all kinds of ways to raise money. And with all their education, it takes time and money and volunteers to do it. So I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of your work.
Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful trip to Waco. Tell the Rangers we said hi.
I will tell them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.